Day, and we are here for another edition of the MSP Initiative. Today we have commonly found during non-coronavirus times, man of the channel, Matt Scully, who's currently with Mail Protector. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, George, I'm doing good. How are you? That's the question.
Oh, I am feeling fantastic, my friend.
Yeah.
We're bouncing around the country and meeting MSPs on their turf, socially distanced and safe. But it looks, I've been saying it as I've been moving along. Things are looking a lot better out there than it seems, right, on the news.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
people are actively trying to do business, and airports are running and traffic is there and all that good stuff. So I'm feeling kind of good about the current state of affairs to some degree, or feeling more positive, if that's the right
Yep.
way. But so far, so good. The MSP Initiative Channel Strong Tour is live and well.
Hey, can I give you a compliment?
Sure.
I mean, probably don't get those that much, but I'm going to want to give you one. So when I took over this position, my strategy is I wanted to go and talk to as many channel influencers as possible, right? And and then obviously we have our go-to-market strategy was to do the events, speak at the engagements, that type of thing, and then but obviously that's been put on the shelf. And when I'm speaking to a lot of these guys that are movers and shakers in the channel, everybody is impressed with the MSP initiative. Every single person. So I know you have a big hand in that. I'm watching your efforts. I know what you're trying to do, and as some channel veteran to another, man, I applaud you for that. I really do. So congratulations on thinking out of the box.
I really appreciate that, man. I really do. There's only so many hours in a day, and willingness is a big thing of it. So, like, Matt, why don't you, for people who don't know you well,
Sure.
Why don't you just give us a quick trip down memory lane? Where did you start professionally? How did you get to your current role now, so that people can kind of feel your journey a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so I graduated school in 1997 in Minnesota, St. Mary's College in Minnesota, and I started working for a moving logistics company, which then morphed into, within a year or two, into a temporary housing position. So I worked for a temporary housing industry for about maybe the better part of about 15 years. Okay. And so basically what temporary housing is it was in New York and San Diego when executives, the Secret Service, ball players, musicians, travelers, business professionals, mobility professionals would come into New York or San Diego. My job was to go and find them temporary homes starting at 30 days and going longer. It was great, had a great run with it. But what happened towards the end was that all of a sudden you started seeing what the Silicon Valley's guys, right? The Airbnb kind of saying, hey, look, instead of giving these guys 30, 60, 90 days of temp living, what they could do is they can go and find it on their own through an application, and it could be much cheaper, and the onus is on them, right? So they manage the logistics of it. So the industry wasn't dying, but it was changing. But at the same time, now we're going back to around 2015, there was this company that was started in Norwalk, Connecticut, which is where I am born and raised and I currently live. This company just started making moves. And there was this one guy that I went to middle school and high school with, who was just always one of those guys. He was a winner, like he was always one of those guys that was, steps ahead and, professionally. And when that company landed this guy, I said, wow, I need to take a look at this company to see what I can do to get in there. That company was called Datto. So I worked at Datto. It started as a salesperson and moved into the channel development manager. And I had a good run there. And that ended around, I want to say, May of 2020. At which point, some of the goodwill, some of the good people, some of the good friends that I've made in the channel talked to me about this opportunity that was happening at Mail Protector, and got in touch with the CEO. And him and I had a couple, great conversations. And then, I met with the leadership team, and again, just gelled. Everyone just gelled. And, when I would say, hey, this is how I view things, and they're like, hey, this is how I view things. And I said, wow, man, this is such a great collaboration that it just became a great fit. And so on June 15th, 2020, I started with Mail Protector. Are you familiar with Mail Protector?
I am a little bit familiar with Mail Protector. I mean, we've seen them at a lot of the events. So, I mean,
Yep.
obviously, just kind of seeing who's out there and who's visible. So let's zoom back for a second. So you started in sales, right? As
Correct.
on the vendor side, selling to MSPs. I'm
That's
sure
correct.
you talk to people in many different regions of the country.
Sure.
When you're trying to figure out if an MSP is legit,
Mhm.
what are the questions that come up in order to validate that somebody's not kind of overstating their situation?
Okay, so that's an awesome question. Like one of the things that we got, okay, so my territory when I was at Data was in the parts of Texas, sort of in the Midwest, and the cloud adoption wasn't as much as it was into the on the East Coast. Okay, so what we did was we saw a lot of those guys that were guys and girls, but a lot of those MSPs that didn't really fall off all the way off the break fix model, and it was kind of dabbling into the MSP space. And what was interesting about that, and it was just like the perfect timing for Datto, was that we were so sales and marketing focused that our role as a salesperson there was to grow their business. And we had a lot of that marketing material. We had a lot of those nurture campaigns. We had a lot of those resources to help these guys grow their business. And that's a lot of the stuff, I'm taking with me, those philosophies I'm taking with me to Mail Protector. But to answer your question in an easy, I believe in accountability groups. I believe that if you want to exceed in the MSP space, you got to be willing to speak to your peers. You join the different groups that are out there, Channel Pro, ASCII, name them, IT Evolve, Taylor Business. I mean, I could go on and on. Listen to McBain. There's a plethora of resources. Sobel. There's so many different resources that are out there. And the other thing also is talk to your solution providers. These guys that have been in the channel, for years, and the one thing that when I was looking for my new opportunity, I put a post on LinkedIn, and I literally had, 20, 30 people responding to me, and I said, God, I didn't even know I was loved. And I took a step back, George, and I was like, this isn't a Matt Scully thing, right? This is a channel thing. This is a channel thing, and we protect our own. And I fell into that lucky category there.
No, listen, it is absolutely communities. A lot of people don't participate. A lot of people do. I feel like I keep on stumbling into people who don't realize that the community exists, which is kind of hard to believe, but it happens all the time. I call it castle mentality, right? Because I think everybody's on their own island when clearly that's not the case.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question then. So, zooming from the time that you started off selling to MSPs and then now being more of a channel evangelist, if you would, right? Community time. Why is it that MSPs struggle on taking marketing seriously and helping their sales efforts internally?
Well, it's because there's the different size of these MSPs, right? Sometimes you have one that's like 1 or 2 man shop. Some of them are techs that gone into business owners. I know from my previous company when we would do what is the one thing that keeps you up at night. The first year, I think it was in 2018 that I was presenting on it. It was 56% said that sales and marketing keep them up at night. It went down to 44, which is good because that means there's much more engagement between the vendors, at least in my opinion, between the vendors and the MSPs. I'm not allowed to say vendors. I'm supposed to say solutions providers. So sorry about that. But yeah, I think with what we have out there, specifically with this market automation, like that the sales and marketing can't be an excuse anymore. It just can't be. They, like the vendor, like I'm seeing that a lot of solution providers, their model is under their salespeople is to help the MSPs sell their solutions. And how do you do that, right? Get them on webinars, get them on end user presentations, create a marketing plan with them. Do they know, do they know where all the material you have? Is it easy access? If I'm an MSP and I want to learn something about Mail Protector, do I know where to go to get it? And having these tools readily available. And again, having these paths, having these, sales and marketing conversations is going to ease that burden. Absolutely.
So it's interesting though, Matt, because if you talk to the average guy that you run into on the street in the IT business, they'll say way too many phone calls, way too many emails. They're intentionally dodging those
Yep.
conversations because they think that they're just being sold at rather than, partnered with.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true still today? Like,
Sure.
is it a mistake for the MSP to ignore the call altogether until they absolutely have an on fire burning need? Like, where is that demarcation point?
Right. Okay. So when you're getting those robocallers, okay, I did not find it to be an effective strategy, at all. I mean, like in other words, just dial, 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 dial. You become a telemarketer or or whatever it's called. What are those things? Call center, right?
Yeah,
And
robo
yeah,
dial telemarketer.
you have to have business conversations with your MSPs. You have to have business conversations with them. Whether it is the beginning of the year or if it's a campaign that you're running, find out what their goals are. Find out what the verticals they're using. Find out what they're looking to do. We're looking to grow our business by 10%, in Q4. Great. Okay, what are we going to do together to help you get there? Those they have to have business conversations. The other thing that also that I believe that solution providers need to do is brand themselves better. Is brand themselves better. I have never seen you, George, without that blue shirt on. Never. And I've known you for 3-4 years, right? I know when I see that blue shirt, I'm speaking to George Bordizzi. So, when I see that blue shirt, I'm speaking to George Bordizzi, right? It's you've got to brand themselves better. I did this thing, and you and I kind of had off line conversations, but I'm in January 2020, and I'm just NFL playoffs, and I'm just like, man. Like I love sports, right? And I said, you know what? I love the channel. I love the sports. And I was like, why don't I create this thing called the Channel Sports Guys, right? And what it was just a simple, added 20 guys in there and just a bunch of guys that are in the channel, solution providers, MSPs, whatever the case may be. Anyone in IT, go onto the Channel Sports Guys and talk about sports, drop articles, drop opinions, that type of thing. We did polls in the beginning, and of course, 30 days later, sports is dead, right? So, but here's my point. I'm at an event about maybe about 15 to 20 days after I started the Channel Sports Guys. And I had 3 people who I did not know. 3 people who I did not know said, hey, I recognize you from the Channel Sports Guys, And I said, okay, well, maybe that's my brand, right? Like that's one of the brand ads. I mean, that's how. So yeah, I think that you have the answers. I guess is to have business conversations and brand yourself, and how you do that is your own personal decision. Nope, can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay, sorry. I was gonna say, I think social's been a great tool. I feel like it may have been overdone in a couple of areas, but I think everybody should take the willingness to take an angle at something differently, right?
Sure.
Whether it's to their end customer as an MSP and their groups, their associations, their verticals. And then obviously you see the vendors are trying to become, or solutions providers trying to become creative. One of the things that we often hear, and I hear it all the time, is, and we see it in these surveys, right? Where at the end of the year, the channel vendor community says, oh, well, we didn't spend 50% of our MDF money. Mm-hmm. I wonder, I'm like, wait a minute, 50%? How does half of the money not get spent, right? I mean, we're not Congress here, but it seems like connecting the actual partner, the MSP, with those funds seems to be problematic at times. Why is there a disconnect?
It could be personnel issues. I have no idea. I don't understand why that would be a disconnect. I mean, this is something that your solution provider is providing for you to help you grow your business. I mean, in some cases, the return on investment is over 500%. I mean, it's a no-brainer. What I would really strongly suggest you do, especially on the solution providers, is establish an advisory board. Get 10 of your partners, regardless of what size, and get in their ear, talk to them, ask them these questions. Like, first of all, did you know that our MDF program existed? And did you know what the parameters of it? I mean, those are great ways to have those business conversations on that prior question you just asked me. You know, that is yeah, I mean, if I'm an MSP and I see a company that has an MDF program, I believe that's a gift to the channel for
So
everybody.
like you've been involved in MDF
Oh
spend
yeah.
and events and stuff like that. You know, granted that may have been different before Corona hit. Can you
Mm-hmm.
give an example or a set of examples to the people who watch this video on where that money can go as an MSP? Like how do I spend that MDF money and make it work for me?
Okay, so great question. Okay, well, first and foremost, you have to have a pre-planning. Okay, look, what are you looking to do? Okay, what are you looking to get out of this? You know, you want to sell X amount more solutions. You want to, you know, build your brand. I'm talking about from an MSP perspective. You know, you want to, you know, increase your presence in specific verticals. A lot of people have heard of you, but they're not necessarily signing. So what you want to do is you want to have those pre-planning conversations and find out what exactly is your mission, what it is that you exactly want to do. Then what you want to do is you want to speak to your solution providers, the one that's going to be giving you the MDF funds, right? Now, I'm telling you, I know the channel. These solution providers are not going to just hand you, you know, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 and say, okay, go have an event, have fun. You know, no, they have skin in the game. They have skin in the game. So when you have that pre-planning conversation, you talk about what you want to do. Usually, it's solutions provider is going to be able to say, okay, well, we've done it, you know, at this venue, and this has been successful. Whether it's Top Golf, whether it's you know, Ruth Chris Steakhouse, or wherever it's be. Okay, they could talk about
I've heard of the movie theater thing being popular, right? When a new
the
film
Star Wars,
out.
but the problem is it's not effective. It's not effective. Anything that's after hours, I don't believe is effective because you're getting the wrong crowd in. Okay, you're not getting that business crowd in. I'm sorry, Star Wars is not an effective way. I mean, you know, listen, somebody can probably put on these comments, oh, I did a Star Wars and it was great. No, we made things, well, good, congratulations. But in my experience, you're getting kids. You're getting family members, you're getting friends. And I don't find that to be too much of an effective way. You know, the most effective is breakfasts, lunch and learns, you know. And what you should totally do is when you're having these conversations on how you're going to you're going to bring it in or do the event, how do you bring in that solutions provider to help you during that event? And I'm talking from a presentation and content standpoint, right? Like they need to be able to contribute to the content of that presentation or that event. The other things that I suggest is take a look at evergreen leaders like the FBI, you know, Secret Service, cyber insurance executives, and have them on the bill at those events. All right. Then what you do is then you just do the logistics. Okay, we're inviting X amount of people. This is what it's going to cost. You know, be transparent and make sure you're giving everything to the solutions provider for the approval. Okay, once it's approved, it's a go time, and once it's go time, it's the execution. But the most important thing, George, the most important thing that you got to keep in mind, it's the most important part, is the follow-up. Okay, do not be one of those people that just executes a beautiful event where everything was absolutely perfect, and all of a sudden marketing thought sales was following up on them, you know, and sales thought marketing was, you know, marketing was just trying to impress the solution provider CEO to make sure that, you know, the flowers were cut and the people were wearing nice tuxedos and the oven or the bread was hot, you know, that type of thing. The follow-up is the most crucial part, and you have to have meetings with the solution provider afterwards. So you get a list of attendees who was there. Once you get that list, then obviously you scrub it. And then what you do is you hit them while it's hot. Okay. You know, you get them right where they were, you know, where it's memorable. You know, they're wowed by the presentation that they saw from you. They're wowed by the presentation they saw from the solution provider. They're wowed by the presentation they saw from the, you know, the FBI agent, whatever the case may be. And then what you do is you begin those business conversations. And I find this, and like, if this could be a summary of anything that we've talked about today, is that once, as a solution provider, once you find yourself in the midst of those conversations, those business conversations, you become much more memorable and much more strategic to the goals that they're trying to accomplish. Nope, muted again.
It auto muting here. That was probably the most comprehensive, idea, structure, follow, walk through an MDF conversation I think I've heard. I mean, quite frankly, everybody
Well,
talks
go.
about it. Nobody understands how it works unless they've done it already.
Have you
We've heard.
talked to Mike DePalma?
Well, I haven't talked to Mike DePalma. Maybe we'll have him on next. But
All
at
right.
the end of the day, it sounds like you could get several $1,000s of spend plus, but more importantly, it sounds like contribution from your vendor partner, right? Like
Yep.
they will actually come to you, they will engage with you, they'll help you put the content together. It's not like they're just sending you a check and saying, hey, make it work, let us know what the results are, or else we'll have problems. So it sounds like that's a little bit different from, again, I feel like people are scared of this, either scared of it, don't realize that it exists, or don't know how to do it, right? So very intriguing that, we're trying to get those funds out there, right? And help those people, move their sales and marketing forward. Let me ask you another question.
Sure.
From an MSP standpoint, how often should the MSPs be educating their customers or re-educating their customers or updating their customers on the existing solutions that are already in place, right? Usually there's a pain point. They plug in something to fix that pain point. You never talk about it again, right? But obviously this technology continues to grow over time. And I feel like there's a disconnect between the messaging that comes to the MSP and the messaging the MSP ultimately delivers to the end customer.
Yeah. So I've got a case in point that's perfect for that, which is what we're working on right now. We launched in 2018 an email encryption solution called Bracket. Okay. I don't know if you know how Bracket works. It's really cool. Basically what happens is you put brackets in the actual subject line and that email is encrypted. So you send it out and that email is encrypted. It's unbelievable. It's great. It's fun. But again, my predecessor, Ted Roller, I'm sure you know Ted, he was very engaged with the MSP community. And he says, oh my God, this is great. This is great. But it's, if we could do this, or if we could do that to make it even better experience. Okay. And so we went to the drawing board, and this is all in 2020. And this is what we're going to launch next week. And I'm not going to tell you what we're going to launch because of the fact that I would get fired if I did that. But we are launching Bracket 3. We are launching Bracket 3 next week at the Kaseya Connect IT event. And that is where we are spending the majority of this week, so last week, putting that out there. We have a teaser video. We are calling our MSPs to let them know we're getting on top of this. We're getting on top of this to let them know on it. So when we have a big launch like that, I think you could do something pretty big, maybe at one of the conferences or not. But on updates, simple updates that are not going to be game changing, I think having those conversations with those, with your MSPs on that. Also, obviously, any type of updates that you're doing that should go onto your client portal. So when every time your client goes on, an MSP goes onto their portal, they could see the updates that are there. Maybe a lot of the stuff is technical that, the sales and marketing business owner doesn't really care too much about, but a technician would be like, hey, wait, that's great, So yeah, I think the constant communication is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I would, I keep on hearing that MSPs, are largely not, like, I don't know if they're doing it during their quarterly business reviews. I don't know if they're not, sending out regular communication to, the actual end user versus the business check signer writer guy, right? But I think there's a constant struggle with, keeping the actual downstream end user educated on, hey, here's things that are now available. Here's what you should watch out for. Training your end user has always been difficult, right? Because you're trying to deal with the organizational dynamic. So from a training aspect, how much, are there resources available that people are missing as MSPs that they can parlay into their end customer? Because I feel like that's another big gap, training.
Yeah.
Like because ultimately what happens is something happens, and then the check writer from your end, from your customer as an MSP says, what the hell? Why didn't you have something in place? And then you turn around and you're like, oh no, but it's in place. You just didn't know how to use it. And then that's when the problem conversation happens.
So perfect example. Okay. Cam Newton, right? Where's he going?
Well, Belichick in New
Right.
England, that's where
He's
he's
going to
going.
Belichick. Okay. Completely two different offenses, which Cam Newton ran versus what
Tom
he's
Brady.
going to be with Belichick, unless
Yeah,
Belichick changes his offense. Okay. Which I don't think,
I don't think
okay.
so.
My point is that Cam Newton's not going to be successful unless Bill Belichick has a strong onboarding process of his entire program. Okay. MSPs are not going to be successful with their solutions that they're selling if there's not a strong onboarding with it. And give that expectation. What does 30 days look like? What does 90 days look like? What's 6 months? But you have to have a strong onboarding, portal tours, portal refreshers. This is where there's a wealth of information out there that you're not obtaining. You said the same thing earlier about the MDF. Oh, wait a minute. We can get an MDF from you. Are we qualified? Well, you should know that, and you would know that through the onboarding call. Listen, well, here's what happens. Okay, someone scores a touchdown and they just high five each other, and then they're done, and they don't play defense. It's this. It's not. You can't do that. You can't just sign them. A big deal, and then turn around and then just be done with it. That's the one thing about the channel, that it is a process. It's not just an instant win.
No,
And it needs to be cultivated.
That's interesting. I mean, listen, the concept of account management largely doesn't occur unless you're big enough in size, right? I feel like
Sure.
that as a dedicated role tends to fall down at the MSP level just because there's smaller orgs out there sometimes. There's a lot of people wearing a lot of hats. It doesn't happen. But training obviously is a real big thing. So generally speaking, now that you're in this new role, right? You're kind of the man, over at your company. And you're talking to a lot of people, I assume, right? Just trying to get a lay of the land and figure out what's happening.
Absolutely.
What are you hearing kind of today, right? We're kind of still in a weird period. Some people are just coasting. Some people are growing.
Yeah.
Some people are losing too. But I'm just trying to get a general gist from you on the people that you've talked to as a collective. What are you feeling on the street? What's the kind of status quo, if you will?
I think I have talked to so many, guys. Rob is just a trusted mentor. Rob is just something I hang on his every word. Like when he talks, he's just a trusted mentor, and everything that he says. I just was like, there's just a lot of thought and experience behind it, and it's that's a great thing. I think one of the most memorable would probably be Sobel, and he said wasn't really what people are doing, it's what people are not doing, and he says he's frustrated with the lack of creativity from the channel, and during these times as ways to get in touch with people, and Jay wrote an article. I thought that was a great article on you guys, about the initiative there, just complimenting the out of the box thinking, but I think that there's a lot. We're smart. We come together. We're community, and I think what we said, okay, and a lot of it has to do with the pandemic, okay, meaning in the sense that, we thought this thing was going to be done by April. We thought it was going to be done by, May. We thought DattoCon was going to happen, right? We thought all these things were going to happen, and, this was just a temporary thing. So we didn't really do long-term, any type of planning on what, the next 6 months to up to a year is going to look like. And that uncertainty, created, okay, let's do a lot of webinars, let's do a lot of Zooms, that type of thing. And, and I said, that's just kind of what everyone's doing. And like, how can we think out of the box, and I just keep coming back to the thing, just keep engaging, finding different ways to engage, find different ways to be relevant, deliver your message in a post-COVID world, because that's what we're in right now. Right. So.
No, 100%. So if you could give any advice to the MSPs watching this call at all on any topic, what would you say that is, and what these people be concentrating on to get to the end of 2020 so that we can maybe see a new 2021 on the ground floor, without all of the 2020 problems?
Yeah, I could do that in 2 words. Just communicate value. Just communicate the value That's all. You bring over what you guys have done, MSPs have done over the past 6 months. I mean, unsung heroes, the late nights, risking their own family's health to get, to go and help and be, a trusted resource for their clients or small, medium-sized business. Make sure that you are putting this down somewhere for people can see the value that you bring to the table. We have so many different solutions out there, so many different reports, SLAs, we have RMM, PSA reports, all these different types of things that are out there. Make sure you have those reports available, and show your clients, hey, you know what? On the back end, everything worked fine, but you know what? It was because I did this or because we did that, and then of course that's going to help during, contract negotiations and stuff going forward. But I believe that, yeah, I think that MSPs can communicate the value they bring to the table more, speaking a language that people really don't understand, right? The back end of the IT infrastructure. So yeah, I think that's important. That's most important. Oh, you're on mute again.
Yep, auto muting, right? Gotta love Zoom. So today we're cutting short. Matt actually has to go, and so we usually do these for an hour. But Matt, I really appreciate you coming on board. Where do people find you? How do people get a hold of you?
Always, I would love to speak to anybody in the channel. Okay, anybody from the CEO to an intern. I would love to. And you could get me at matt.scully@mailprotector. matt.scully@mailprotector.com. Okay. Awesome. Hey George, I'd like to take you up on the back nine. If we're doing another interview or one of these things. This was fun.
Sure.
It was always
sure, absolutely. We'll definitely take you up on that. And everyone, this was recorded. You'll find it online. Again, MSP Initiatives, 1:00 Eastern time, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We're still going strong. We're 34 in. We're going to continue to ride it out, and we'll hope to have Matt on soon. Please follow us online and watch our channel Strong Tour as we finish our 3-week tour across America and meet with MSPs in their home turf and kind of get a lay of the land. Touch base with everyone. Talk to you soon, Matt.
Bye.